Welcome to the Awakening Podcast. All our episodes can be found on theawakeningpodcast.org. We're on BitChute, we're on YouTube. Be sure to share with your friends. And this week I've got Steve back because we briefly touched on the Masonics the last time. So it's something that I'm really interested in. I even have a chapter in my book, but I know that you're well tuned into it. So welcome back, Steve.
It's nice to be here, man. The gremlins were out today. It's a pleasure to be here. Well, I'm not a Mason. I'm no expert, but we could just have an open conversation. I mean, I can tell you that there's a lot more going on than people realize mathematically, ritually, with words. You know, that's why they call spelling, because you're under a spell, right? So there's some crazy stuff that goes on. But if you want to talk about Masonry, I mean, Masonry is the science of morality, veiled in allegory, taught in symbols. It's basically about men with morals. This is what's so crazy. Yet as from what I know, it goes back to the Knights Templar, okay? So the Knights Templar had a lot of rituals, and they were basically the Pope's army, okay? So the Knights Templar, there was crusades against the Muslims to convert people to Christianity. Basically started in, this is a funny date, I think 999 was the Pope that declared the crusades. You know, if you turn 999 upside down, it's, but that actually doesn't have a bad meaning. Neither does Lucifer, which I'll get to, but I don't fully understand this. So in 999, the Pope declared crusades again, to convert people to Christianity, which was really against, I think, the Muslim faction. So that whole war has been going on for, thousands of years. And as time went on, I think 100 years went by before the Knights Templar were started. So I think it was in the year like 11, I think it was around 1115 that the Knights Templar started. They were the Pope's army, okay? So the short of it is these guys were basically monks who were steeped in mystery school knowledge and esoteric knowledge and magic and occulted knowledge and things that the very wealthy people study today, but the common public doesn't understand that, that leaders follow astrology and stuff that goes back thousands of years to Sumerian times and to Babylonia. And
I saw that because they were monks, they weren't paying taxes and they weren't investigated. That was kind of yeah.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, the Knights Templar started as the Pope's army and they didn't have to pay taxes. But what people don't realize is they became ginormously wealthy. They created, they were basically bankers. They were, I think, the first bankers before the Rothschilds. So it's all tied together. So they had incredible wealth. The only faction that was more wealthy than the Knights Templar was the Vatican. Okay, so with the fall of Rome, the power of Rome consolidated into the Vatican. Okay, and with the Crusades, that was to convert people to Christianity. They realized they needed protection. The Crusaders. So this all developed, and then what happened was the wealthy people started giving money to the Knights Templar. Not only were they bankers, but they were like the first people to issue traveler's checks. You could go to a Knights Templar temple in some country and give money and get a note, and you could redeem that note in another country at another Knights Templar. So, I mean, they didn't
the
pay
early
taxes.
versions of Western Union.
Yeah, and then so what happened was in the year we come up to about 1300. So for 200 years, the Knights Templar was, the army of the Pope. Atrocities unbelievable going on to convert people to Christianity, people being murdered who didn't. That's a whole nother story. I'm not well versed in that, but Jerusalem is a very core thing because the Knights Templar started perhaps in Jerusalem in around 1115 AD, okay, by a French knight. And the sort of the headquarters of the Knights Templar was Jerusalem. And they started out with I guess, cathedrals or, churches or whatever they had, lodges, you would call them. And as they grew, they started with 9 knights, and they grew like a weed. And over 200 years, they were the biggest banking system in the world. And what happened was the French king, Philip IV, he was indebted to the Knights Templar for a war against someone. Okay, I don't know exactly who. And I think he was either the nephew or the son of this was the king of France, Philip IV. And I think he was the son or nephew of King Louis IX, who loved the Templars. Okay, so I don't really know what that relationship is, but that's kind of a weird thing where Louis IX was a huge Templar fan, and Philip IV, the French king, was indebted to the Knights, like huge amounts. So long story short, he did a propaganda campaign, character assassination campaign against the Knights, who were protected by the Pope, and he compromised the Pope so that he had the Pope in his hand. He didn't want to pay the debt to the Templars, okay? And he saw how much money they had. Long story short, King of France, Philip IV, incarcerated the Jacques Molay, the head of the Knights Templar, for I think 6 years, and then he burned him alive, okay? And I don't know what exactly happened after that, but the Knights Templar sort of disbanded, and the word is they went back to a place, not back to Jerusalem, because then I think a Muslim, I think his name was Saladar, I can't remember his name, but he gained control, and the Knights Templar sort of dispersed underground. And then I think the 33rd degree Scottish Rite started in Scotland. There's something to do with the latitude in Scotland of where they set up. They kind of dispersed and set up. They didn't die, and they went to Bavaria. So, and I think with that, the tradition of Freemasonry came. But Freemasonry, from what I can tell on the outside, it stands for 4 main things: brotherhood, truth, becoming a better man, and having high morals or something like that. So it's an institution
that obviously changed over the years.
Well, this is what we'll get to. So, and the apron, they have all their rituals, and the apron was in honor of the original Masons. I think a lot of it started in England with Masons who actually wore aprons to protect themselves from the, I guess, whatever cement they were using back then. So in their rituals, that's why they wear aprons. But what I heard was that in 1776, the Rothschilds commissioned Adam Weishaupt, who was a Jesuit, steeped in the occult and the mystery schools in Germany, that the Rothschilds summoned Adam Weishaupt to create the New World Order, which is going on today, which is what we see with all these false flags from September 11th to all these wars to COVID-19. And that Adam Weishaupt, I read a book, I started to read a book, it was very detailed. And the core was that they would infiltrate all these institutions from the top down, and the people at the bottom wouldn't know what the true, I guess, motive or cause or business model of these institutions was. So, but that meant the police, education, medicine, all aspects of life. So Adam Weishaupt was a Jesuit who started the New World Order in 1776 on May Day, May 1st. That's why it's such a big day. And with that, I remember reading that the idea was to infiltrate the Masons, but the Masons at the lower echelons wouldn't know that what the main, function of the infiltration and the co-opting of this organization was, which is basically secret society to, garner a lot of wealthy people and very smart people to, have an agenda. And they also, if you follow the initial steps of Adam Weishaupt and the Fabian Society, they're very much in the same, where it's like destroy family values, normalize prostitution and, and promiscuity, confusion, divide and conquer, divide and polarize the public and stuff like that. And these were all written plans, outright, I guess, scripts of these organizations. And the Fabian Society was started in 1884. And I guess I'm not sure when you could say Freemasonry started, but this is my confusion, because you have an organization that's steeped in, morals. Again, it's, if you ask a Mason what esoteric Masonry is, they'll say it's the science of morality veiled in allegory, taught in symbols. Okay. So, but I read, there's a book called The Deadly Deception. Okay. And it's a guy who was in Masonry his whole life. He worked his way up to 32 degrees. Okay. I think it was somewhere in the Midwest. He had a lodge. He even said there was times he felt a little weird. He wore a black robe. And the whole time they were told they're worshiping and their services to Jesus Christ. And this is going to tie to the Knights Templar, which is pretty wild. And I haven't figured this out yet. So he wrote a book called The Deadly Deception. When he was getting his 33rd degree honor, he achieved from, and the word I had heard was that the 32 degrees don't know exactly what the whole core of Freemasonry is, which is the worship of Lucifer or Satan, as I understand it. And this could be wrong. So he wrote the book, The Deadly Deception, because he went to Washington to House of Temple, which is just north of the White House, which is the headquarters of the 33rd degree Scottish Rite, to get his 33rd degree honor. And in that moment, he realized that all of this is subversively, coversively, all about worshiping Lucifer, not Jesus Christ. And that's when he gave it up and he became born again and stuff like that. So up until all these Freemasons at lower levels don't understand that they're secretly being indoctrinated with, I guess satanic type worship. But there's two things I want to get to: the Knights Templar, which is similar to this subversion and co-opting, or I guess deception, and then the thing with Lucifer is the bringer of light. This is what, again, Lucifer may not be that bad. There are people that say that Albert Pike, who's the Pope of U.S. Freemasonry in the 33rd degree Scottish Rite, he wrote a book called Morals and Dogma. It was published in 1851. Okay, it's a very detailed book. And essentially the book, there's a quote that's taken out of context, I've heard, that says that they worship Lucifer, where Lucifer is their God. But Lucifer is the bringer of light. He's the fallen angel who in the Garden of Eden, this is why they look at, and light is really knowledge. Okay. Mm-hmm. So the reason they worship Lucifer is because in the Garden of Eden, the serpent told Eve to eat from the tree of knowledge, and God said, do not eat from the tree of knowledge. Okay. And we all know what happened. Eve ate from the apple, the tree of knowledge, and now we have this dualistic, contrasting world of evil and darkness, and and light and darkness, and evil and good, and success and failure, and all this pain and suffering. But where God in the Garden of Eden said, do not eat from the tree of knowledge. So Lucifer is the one who said, eat from the tree of knowledge. So they basically have this affinity for Lucifer because they feel through knowledge, you can become supernatural, like you can live forever. And I don't fully understand this either. So it's an interesting thing that and Lucifer is represented by Venus, the morning star. So at 3 a.m., I don't know where you are in the world, but I think in the US, if you look up in the sky with a telescope towards Venus at 3 a.m., it's a shining bright star. It looks like it's very bright. So what's interesting is Lucifer is represented by Venus. The drug, that thing in the vaccine is called luciferase. Lucifer Trust is the publishing company of the United Nations. They changed it to Lucent trust, not to, they change their name. So there's this whole thread of Lucifer, and I'm not sure it's direct Satanism, but I think Aleister Crowley twisted things. But getting back to the thing that I read about the Knights Templar was that they also were in crusades to promote, I guess, Jesus Christ and Christianity, but they were covertly denouncing Jesus Christ and Christianity. And this I don't understand, and I'm not exactly that well versed in, and I'll never know. So Freemasonry is a strange thing. I mean, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, they were all Freemasons. There's a Masonic temple. Most Americans don't even know there's a George Washington Masonic Memorial Temple that's huge. It has them in a Baphomet position.
Yeah.
So Baphomet,
there's 14.
Do you know what Baphomet
probably
is?
More. No, I don't know.
Okay, so Baphomet is a man with a goat head, and he represents, as far as I know, Satan or Lucifer, because the Knights Templar, it comes from the Knights Templar worshiping John the Baptist, who I think was beheaded or something, and it has something to do with that. So Baphomet is tied to John the Baptist somehow, and Baphomet is again a goat head, man body, and one arm is pointing up and one arm's pointing down. It's as above, so below. That's this phrase. Okay, now that you've heard it, you're going to hear it again. Trust me, I'd never heard it, and now I hear it all the time. It's like as within, so without. Okay, and it has to do with many things, but partly that the irony of all these psychopaths that are very wealthy and controlling and destroying this planet is they are steeped in the esoteric knowledge of the mystery schools. They are steeped in occulted, hidden information of how the universe works and how humans work, and that we live forever. You know, that there is an afterlife, but they keep it from the common public, right? They don't want to share it, and because they want to control us, they want everyone in fear. Yeah. So Baphomet's a symbol of Luciferianism, which is a goat head. Anytime you see a goat head, you'll see Madonna in it, no matter what. I mean, a guy I play lacrosse with, actually, he's a 32nd degree, and he has a picture of himself near a Baphomet head, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to ask him what's going on. And Jeff Levy's a Freemason, so we're gonna have to ask him as well. But the thing is, Baphomet was tied to the Knights Templar. The Knights Templar apparently were covertly denouncing Jesus, and apparently that's what the Freemasons do. And the whole thing is just twisted and inverted. And if the whole thing with Satanism and Luciferianism is the same thing, even though Lucifer is the bringer of light, he's the bearer, the light bearer. And light means knowledge, right? And we all know that knowledge can change your lives. It changes your perception, right? So they know that keeping knowledge from the public can keep us limited, right? And that's the whole agenda, is to keep us, diminished, limited, less than we are, so we don't know our true powers, so that we're good little slaves and we do whatever we're told, right? So it's an interesting thing. But if you walk into a satanic church, and there's satanic churches everywhere, the crosses are upside down. So, everything's inverted. This is how it's, and what I say that, it's important that people get this. The inversion means it's an inversion and a perversion of the truth. It's a deliberate deception to confuse and bewilder the person that's being confused and bewildered. It's a direct attack on people by using lies and deception to mislead them. Okay.
And what about, because like you're talking about the religion there, and I mean, I've heard a lot about that, but also I've heard that there's been kind of like, I don't know, is it 36 or 37 different kind of like the Virgin Mary and the Jesus Christ and all that, but different names going back, centuries, and
yes,
like
the trivium.
So like, is that something that they're hiding, not to let people know, and the whole lot is orchestrated? Because the exact same stories, because there's even people have what was said.
Well, I think that's how they use it as control. I personally, whether Jesus was a man who died on a cross or not, it's really not relevant. It's Jesus didn't want to start a religion, and it's been co-opted. So to me, the Romans used, I don't want to insult anybody. For me, religion is very limiting. It puts you in a box, and it teaches you that you're less than you are, and you're looking externally for salvation. And that's the whole problem with humanity today, in my eyes, is everyone's looking externally for answers. Trump saved me. I need someone to help me. We need ourselves to help each other. And if you have, gratitude and compassion for other people, you're going to feel better. And once you're out of fear, a lot of things can happen. You'll get the support you need. But what was I saying? Because I want to finish this. So basically, the trivium of Jesus, Mother Mary, and the Father has been apparently repeated, and I don't know exactly, but even, part of the inversion is, even Christmas is a lie. It's really it's the original holiday is called Saturnalia, and it's actually the worship of Saturn.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen the symbol, the star on Saturn as well. I mean, I don't know, is that true? But seemingly from satellite pictures, the star is at the top of Saturn. I mean, it's hard to believe.
It has all to do with math. If you look at this thing, I forget what it's called. It's like the Kabbalon of Venus. It looks like a pentagram, but it's some mathematical geometric dimension, right? So, so part of the inversion is they have everyone worshiping Christmas as the birth of Jesus, when it's actually it's really the death of there's another inversion with this whole holiday. That's why Santa, that's why he's red. When you dress your little baby in a red Santa suit, you're actually sort of worshiping Lucifer without realizing it. I mean, this is my view, because Saturnalia is an old Luciferian holiday to worship Saturn, because Saturn represents Satan. And that basically Jesus, apparently Christmas is a time that it's really the celebration of the winter solstice, because everything works on the solstices, right? They do all their rituals they do most of their rituals on the solstice.
I think it's December 21st, like Stonehenge and all these, the lighting comes down because the sun is so low. And a lot of this, because I've been reading a lot about this, and it's like, instead of this son of God, it's sun as in the sun. And a lot of it is about that. And if you see the pictures on the cross, there's always the sun. And it's when you become aware of this, I know it's the same with you. You go into the churches, you go anywhere, and you'll see the sun is on a load of these things.
Yeah.
Whereas prior to that, you never even thought about that.
Well, why do you go to church on Sunday for Christians? Because it's the worship of the sun. It's right. I think Jewish people celebrate on Saturday because it's Saturn, right? This is going back it goes back thousands of years, and everything that we think we're worshiping is different than what we actually know. I mean, everything's based on math and geometry, especially Freemasonry. I mean, their symbol is a square, a 90-degree square, and a compass. Everything is squaring the circle, right? So a compass makes circles, right? And it's all about geometry. And they have rituals. September 11th was a ritual. And if you walk into a Masonic temple, there's two posts, towers. One's Joachim, one's Boaz. Okay. The floors are checkered, white and black checkerboard. Okay. That means base knowledge. Okay. That's why police have they have the black and white checkerboard on there, because it's mocking the police that they're base knowledge, and that's all they're going to get. They're like slaves they're not slaves, but they're like the protectors of the liars, of the deceptors, of the elite that have the knowledge. Okay.
They're pawns to the king and queens.
Yeah. And they don't know that. So the floor of a Masonic temple is black and white checker, which is base knowledge. You have Boaz and Joachim as the two towers. And then you have Jacob's ladder in the middle, which is ascending towards enlightenment. And it's about climbing that ladder to enlightenment. This is what I don't understand, because everything about the esoteric knowledge and about the mystery schools and about, the worldly knowledge that's not taught to us is all about spirituality and knowing yourself and what Jesus said, know thyself, look within. Like, know you're more than your body. Know you're more powerful. There's much more to you than you can see, and they know this, and they don't want us to know it. But such incredible spiritual knowledge is used for such dastardly dark things. It's insane.
Mm. And like you were talking about presidents, I see that there was 14 that are known that were Masons of the American.
19.
It's 19, yeah, because it was
I think it's
14.
19.
Yeah,
26.
there could be a lot
Yeah.
more. We just don't know, because
Well,
a lot of the time
not.
they don't want people knowing.
I think 26 of the, officially 9 of the Constitution were Masons. They say it's as high as 26, and that it's 13 on the. It's officially 13 of the of the Constitution were Masons, and they say it's as high as 26. And the Declaration of Independence was officially 9, and they say it's higher. I mean, if they're almost everyone's a Mason, it doesn't matter. No one's in power globally who's not of a bloodline of a king or a queen from thousands of years ago, from Merkel to Obama.
And I've even seen Putin in the robes as well, so I assume they're all in it.
Everyone, Martin Luther King, they're all these are psyops. I mean, what's his name? Mandela, he was the Knights of Malta. I mean, there's not even the Dalai Lama, I hate to say it,
Yeah, I remember him, and because I've had a few books on the Dalai Lama, and I remember him having a conversation with Lady Gaga. And I mean, Lady Gaga's one that wears the cross upside down, and I could just I said, nah, this guy ain't good.
They're all part.
Yeah, he's part of it, lah. I know that's going to shock people. Like,
there's apparently Gandhi was part of it. I mean, apparently Mother Teresa.
Well. Yes,
Mother Teresa was getting millions of dollars of donations, and none of them were going to help people. I mean, a very small fraction, like 3% of the money she got in. I mean, she was bringing in millions in her name, and so if she knew about it, then she was part of it.
And just because you mentioned the Vatican at the start, I mean, people probably don't know that is not kind of part of Italy. That's a separate entity because it's like a tax haven for them.
It's a separate country. Well, I mean, everything's a corporation. I mean, even we're corporations. People don't realize every time you give your name, you're surrendering your inalienable rights as a living man or a living woman. That's a whole nother story. We won't get into.
Exactly. That's what I want to delve in at another stage of the comment.
Yeah, but if you know languaging, if you know words all have specific meaning, and if you know how to speak to a public servant, a police officer, you don't want to be rude, but you can diffuse the situation as long as you do not give them your name, because everything's a contract.
Yeah. So
as soon as you give them your name, because the first thing a cop will always ask is, "What's your name?"
And so as soon as you say your name, understand? It's like,
and do you understand? So when when you say your name, you've agreed to enter into a contract with him. And when he says, "Do you understand?" and you say yes, he's now standing over you. You're under him. So I mean, we could do a whole show on that. But I mean, so getting back to Masonry, it's a conundrum for me because all this knowledge that, and people don't realize that these colonials destroyed all the indigenous ways, right? Mm-hmm. The indigenous people were the most advanced people. They knew all about themselves, about who they are, about reincarnation, about the powers that they have, about who created Earth. All these traditions were passed on from generation to generation. And the colonials deliberately, not only to make profits, but they want to destroy any cohesiveness amongst the people. That's why all these wars have nothing to do with democracy. All these wars that are fabricated, engineered, and funded and infiltrated, and there's no wars. These are all fake wars. They're all government-sponsored, government-funded wars. Not government, but the bad guy, I guess you could call it deep state, which is the term everyone refers to now. These wars are about stopping humanity's progress in the name of democracy. It sounds crazy, but trust me, this is what it is. Yeah. Anyone who's being attacked or being called a dictator is a good guy, and he's doing good for his country. Trust me. Yeah. Or maybe not that, but he's he's not the person that he's being made out to be. It's just another character assassination, another excuse to go to a country 10,000 miles away, take control of the resources, put a central bank in, indebt the country, indebt the people, and make them slaves. I mean, all you have to do is think, okay, well, how many civilians have been killed in Iraq? Over 1 million. How many soldiers died in Vietnam? I'm not making light of this. We should have never been in Vietnam. It was another fake war against communism, but 58,000 American soldiers died, which is a huge number. But we've killed over 1 million refugees. We've killed over 1 million civilians in Iraq. It's never on the news. There's 3 million refugees who had to leave their home. I mean,
I did a very good podcast with Zahid on Iraq, because he's basically telling kind of the story from their side. And yeah, like,
I mean, anyone who thinks that we need to keep the nation secure, America secure, by going 10,000 miles away to a country that has no military is, I mean, first of all, we sold them chemical weapons, and then they came in with this little vial, and Colin Powell, whatever his name is, he's in Congress holding this tiny vial of fucking, what he was saying, weapons of mass destruction, in this tiny vial. It was like 1 inch tall, and that's all. It was like, it was an image they sent around the news. This is the reason to go to war, right? And not only that, we sold them the chemical weapons that they were touting as weapons of mass destruction. All right, I'm going to shut up now.
No, you're cool. You're cool. And like the 33, where does that come about? Is it the triangle, the tree, and the inversion of?
Well, first, 33 is a very powerful number in numerology, but we have 33 vertebrae. Okay, and it has something to do with the spine and Kundalini, and releasing the Kundalini. This is why they do terrible things to children sexually, because it releases their Kundalini. And the Kundalini spirit in us is something, once released, it makes us, I guess, more. See, the Illuminati families that are generational Satanists or generational Luciferian, what they do to their children, and this is what was done to them. This is like, a bad parent passing it on, like an abusive parent passing on. But so generational Satanists or Luciferians, it's called trauma-based mind control. And they do this at a very young age to their own children. They traumatize them and split their mind into different personalities, so that they become desensitized, so that they can go out in the world and do really bad things and not feel bad. So they start them when they're young. Like this one woman, Saville, she was in an Illuminati family. And I've heard this story by many others, not many, but a few other Illuminati people have come out with very similar stories, where she was put in a room at age 4, or it was 3 maybe even, or 3 or 4, and the room had metal on it, and they would put her in the room with a kitten, and they'd put her in the room and they'd say, kill the kitten. This is her own parents doing this to her. And she would get shocked when she didn't kill the kitten. And then finally, after doing this enough, she would kill the kitten based on being shocked. And the trauma of this, and then the trauma of sexual abuse, because they also bring their children to be raped by other people. Another girl said when she was 5, her father would bring her to the Pentagon, and she would be raped by all the generals there. The Jimmy Savile was supplying kids to the BBC higher ups and to the royals. And
if you just look, because like some people might think, no, this is way out there. And if you look at Jimmy's, like the one thing that I have a saving grace is I remember when we were young, it was he had the show, and you basically
Jimmy will fix it.
Jimmy fix it. And it was like, we'd all write in for the letter Ho. And it's the one thing, it's like, you look back in time and you go, thank God I was never on. He was with Thatcher. You'd see him hanging around with Thatcher, with Heath.
Of course.
All of these people. He was a necrophiliac. He had done terrible things. Nothing done to him.
Well, yeah,
so
because that's part of
who he was surrounded with. Show me your friends, I tell you who you are.
There you go. Well, so that's everything in this, everything, these controllers, everything is inverted, right? So Jimmy is on a TV show for 40 years that, the title's Jimmy Will Fix It. And he has kids sitting on his lap on TV, and all the people making the show, maybe not all the people making it, but the higher ups at the BBC certainly know that, they're raping children. they know he's a rapist and a pedophile, and this goes beyond pedophilia. This is, child torture. And he had access to, I think, 27 different NHS morgues, and they would have rituals with children, and he would have sex with corpses, and none of this gets investigated, and that's part of the inversion, right? It's called victim shaming. They shame the victims.
Yeah.
The victims speak out. They either go to jail.
Exactly.
Or
that's what they do. They go to the police, but because the whole lot is infiltrated, it's not exposed.
You can't,
and then they put them into a nut house, unfortunately.
That's right. Well, I mean, Wilfred Wong he's a UK Navy veteran. He's been fighting satanic ritual abuse for 25, 30 years. They just set him up. Some Satanists said, oh, there's a girl who's being abused, satanically, ritually abused. This is his expertise. And they drove him 200 miles to this victim, but they were in on it. When they got there, the police came and he was charged with kidnapping once he took the girl in the car, right? And they were all Satanists, and they were setting him up, right? And I don't know where his trial is, but the Hampstead cover up, I mean, that's a whole nother show, so it goes on and on. And I mean, like I said, lately I've been feeling a bit beleaguered, a bit worn down, a bit tired. And I mean, I'll tell you, there's a spiritual thing that we decided to come here at this time for this very reason. And that, we need the darkness to play their role, because we're here to learn. And, at some level, we agreed to this. So I was like, okay, this guy, James True, he's really wild, his views, but he's like, look, the darkness is pushing us to wake up. They're pushing us to the point. If we had it easy and we had what we wanted, we were never tested, and they didn't do this, we'd be much more enslaved. So our freedom relies on how far they're pushing us.
Yes, exactly.
To a degree, which is crazy.
And like, what about, because I've spoken to people that I went to an open house kind of for a Masonic. This was prior to me knowing anything bad about it. I thought it was just kind of like a networking group, and there was, I think, 11th degree and all this. And to be honest, I wasn't impressed with the guys that were there. And like, as you said, I don't think everybody knows what's going on, but
no, not at all.
Talking to somebody that's had parents and grandparents, and I was trying to get him on the show, but he didn't want to be on. But they're kind of initiation. Have you heard about anything like that where they have to masturbate in front of a mirror and things like that?
Yeah, I've heard. Well, I think all Masons, if you say you're a Mason, you have to go through the first 3 degrees. I think everyone has to. I think the 3rd degree is, I don't know exactly. I think you have to lie in a coffin.
Yeah, I've heard that one as well. Yeah.
I think that's the 3rd degree. I know kneeling is another Masonic thing, which is the whole, the knee on the neck on George Floyd is a Masonic ritual. All, Pelosi kneeling on TV, it's all Masonic. This is all Masonic. I mean, George Washington, he and Pierre Ellenfant was another 33rd degree Freemason. They designed Washington, D.C. It's, where the president puts his hand on the Bible when he gets sworn in, he's at the top of the compass. If you look at, it's all designed, and there's also a pentagram. But in terms of the higher ups, I don't know all of them, but I know it gets weird. It gets weird that, like, the Skull and Bones, and I know that having homosexual sex with each other is part of what they do, even though they're married. This either honors Lucifer, which I don't know, but there's another thing that once you do this, because I know in the Knights Templar, they were forced to kiss each other as part of the ritual. The initiate had to kiss the head Knights Templar who was trying to get, I guess, in the Knights Templar. He had to kiss him on different parts of his body. And part of the thinking there was, you're going into battle and you want nothing to phase you. Nothing. Okay. That means you could go in and bayonet a guy's neck without thinking about it. I'm not saying kissing a guy will get you to that level, but I think this homosexual sex between each other. I know at Bohemian Grove, President Nixon, you can hear it on his tape, the Watergate tapes. He said Bohemian Grove's the faggiest place he's ever been. And there's stories that they dress up in women's dresses and they have sex with each other. These are like leaders of the world. And I think part of that is not only to honor Lucifer, it has something to do with Aleister Crowley. But if once you've done that, nothing will faze you and you'll do anything to compromise humanity, to lie, to take advantage. Once you allow it to be done to you and once you do it, apparently I'm still trying to make the connection on that. But as disgusting or strange as it is, these are guys who have white picket fences and married with kids, and at 3 a.m. in the morning, they're having man-to-man sex with each other to honor some aspect of their process.
And like the Bohemian Grove, I think it was there that the Manhattan Project originated. I know it was in 1942. And also regarding presidents, I remember seeing a picture of the Bohemian Grove with Nixon and Reagan. So just like all of this is orchestrated. We've seen other pictures with different leaders, but it's all planned. And like, so basically they organized the atomic bomb through one of these groups. And when you think of actually the testing of the atomic bomb, sure, they hadn't a clue who was going to crack the actual planet.
Well,
yes.
I mean, we didn't have to even drop the bomb. I mean, what nation would drop 2 atomic bombs on civilian installations? There was no need to even drop one. But this was a ritual. There was a reason they did it. It's spiritually, it's very damaging for the entire universe to do anything with nuclear weapons or atomic weapons. It opens portals, apparently. I'm not going to go there because I
included that on the thing. I think there was like 2,600 tests of nuclear bombs done. Like, what?
Yeah, well,
damage has that done?
America dropped atomic bombs on civilians.
Yeah, Nagasaki and Hiroshima.
Think about it. Stop right there. No, never should anybody do that, but we did it. Truman was a 33rd degree Freemason. Okay. It goes on and on. The Bushes are basically, Prescott Bush was Skull and Bones. He was funding Hitler with Harriman, Harriman was Skull and Bones. Brown Brothers Harriman was a bank. Prescott Bush had the bank Union Bancorp. They were helping Hitler. Hitler was basically part of the whole New World Order, but it's a whole nother subject. The presidents have been groomed and selected, not elected. The elections haven't mattered for 100 years, except until until Trump was elected in 2016. I'm still not sure because of Israel and how, but he's done good things. But let's just say until Trump was elected, both parties were controlled by the Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderbergers, the Trilateral Commission, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers. It's just different jerseys, same team. So exactly, no matter who got in office, they were going to be complicit deceivers of the public. They were going to say, yes, I can. And then they were going to start wars every 2 years, and go in and kill thousands of people with drones. And, these are all rituals. These are all blood rituals to honor Lucifer. Everything's a ritual. Even now there's a ritual they have on one side of the United States, they have a hospital ship called Mercy. It's a white ship with a red cross, right? Knights Templar, right? Remember the connection? Knights Templar to Masonry, to Lucifer. And on the other side in California, they have Hope, the white hospital ship called Hope. So Mercy and Hope are the two pillars, Joachim and Boaz, okay? And in the middle is the tiles, is the ground floor of the Masonic temple, the checkerboard, the base knowledge, the little people like us. And who knows what they're going to do, but they'd like to kill as many people as they can. And, trust me, I'm not crazy. This stuff is as real as you and I are talking here. I just don't fully understand it because we're never going to know, we have no idea how they even, who figures this out, that, you know, the shooter has to be on the 33rd floor in room 3507 at 11 a.m. And the newspaper article has to say, you know, because it's all rituals, it's all numbers. And, you know, there's a high chance it didn't even happen, right? Or that, you know, maybe one person was killed, maybe no people were killed. I mean, false flags are, you know, they're real events. It's not, a false flag isn't a fake event. It really happened. It's just not what the controlled media is telling you. The false narrative that the script that media is telling you is the movie that they're portraying, but that's not really what's going on.
Like Man on the Moon.
Yeah. I mean, that's a whole nother story.
Yeah. Yeah,
you know,
I've seen too many things in it. There's one definitely that I can talk about. But say the
Van
Bilderberg
Allen
Group.
belts and yeah,
like
I mean,
the Bilderberg Group. I mean, I've seen meetings. That's all secret as well, and they have meetings around the world, and it's kind of like the top leaders. That's basically where they're organizing what's going to be going on. I mean, have you any information, more information on that? The Bilderberg Group.
Well, the Bilderberg Group was started in 1954 at the Bilderberg Hotel. That's why it's called the Bilderberg Group in Norway, and it's all the top people from all over the world. And they started. I mean, the Fabian Society started in 1884. Adam Weishaupt and the New World Order started in 1776. And then you have to understand, the Bilderberger is just the consolidation of all these different groups, all the top people coming in to make policy decisions on where they want to, you know, they want to try and steer the collective consciousness of humanity, right? Because they need our consent. Do you understand? So people don't realize, even if you're against it, that doesn't count. If the majority is saying, give me the vaccine, they have consent, you know? So what I'm going at is they figure out strategies, how to get what they want. That's why all these think tanks, the Rockefeller think tanks, they need these think tanks for these very, very dark people to come up with ideas of how to pull off their very controlling and limiting plans. You know, Lockstep 2010 Rockefeller Foundation. And they always title it with something really sexy, like, you know, how to improve humanity, you know, and then it's Lockstep, you know, cameras everywhere and stuff like that. But what I was going to say is these societies, let's call it authorities. So they know that from Immanuel Kant, goes back hundreds of years. He lived in Prussia, and he came up with this idea to teach people to respond to authority, to limit them. And that's all our education systems are taught. We're on the Prussian Immanuel Kant system, where you become very left-brained. You don't think for yourself, no creativity. You don't question authority. You don't question what you're told, right? Because you're indoctrinated to respond to authority. When you're in nursery school, you have someone of authority, right? Then you have another teacher. Then there's a doctor in a white coat, right? Listen to your doctor. He's another position of authority. Now it's a police officer. He's authority. You stand under him, right? Another, listen to what he says. Don't question it. Your boss, right? So all this indoctrination of responding to authority has us believing things that we don't question, right? And then you have authorities like the institution. So the Rockefellers knew they could create all these institutions, the Department of Defense, the Department of Strategic Affairs, right? These authorities, right? So now when this person speaks from this authority, you just don't question it. They know everything, right? And part of the Bilderberger stuff is not only directing policy, but the Council on Foreign Relations is the biggest thing that's driving American policy until Trump got in. That's why they want him out so bad, because he's not controlled by the Council on Foreign Relations, because they controlled all presidents since 1917 when they started, right? So even, you know, the presidents who went against him were murdered, or, you know, like JFK, right? He went against them. He had executive order. JFK had executive order quadruple 10, which was to end the Fed and to start printing, have the U.S. Treasury, the government print its own money, and they couldn't have that. He also didn't want to escalate the Vietnam War. And what did LBJ do as soon as he got in? And LBJ is a dirty, dark motherfucker. As soon as LBJ got into office, he escalated. The whole Bay of Tonkin was a false flag. It never happened. And we sprayed Agent Orange. We murdered people. We tortured people. What we did there, we should be ashamed of ourselves, just that. And we've done it everywhere globally. America is the greatest country for genocide in the name of democracy on the planet.
Definitely. And like when you have all these like Rockefellers, Rothschilds, Morgans and Bilderbergs and all, it's like 13 families. Yeah. 13 comes into it a lot. What's the symbolism about the 13 about?
Yeah, I forget the 13. I mean, Jacques Molay was burned on Friday the 13th, October 13th, 1307. And he was the head of the Knights Templar. There's weird shit about that. But I mean, I think the Rockefellers aren't even part of the top 12 families. I don't even think. There's like names we don't even know. I know the Vanderbilts are all part of it, but I mean, I don't know exactly how it works, but a lot of these families are generational. They interbreed, right? Or they breed with one other family, like the Rothschilds are very much breed with the Goldschmidts. You know, like the pharaohs of the yesteryear, they kept their DNA tight, just like the royals interbreed. All the royals are interrelated, no matter who in Europe, you know, they're all basically cousins of each other. Distant cousins.
They're all Masons as well, because I've seen a thing. Was it Prince Philip? Is that the Queen's? Is it Philip? Is it
the Duke of Edinburgh? Yeah.
And he was like leading a thing, and there was a lot of people there, but they were singing "God Save the Queen," and
yeah, but "God Save the Queen" is another like all these things are like they basically have people saying things that they don't know what they mean. There's like "God Save the Queen's another a dark thing. I forget what the real meaning is.
But even him, you're aware of him. I mean, there was pictures of him with Hitler, like, you know, so he's got German backgrounds, and, you know, like if you go...
Well, Hitler's like was Hitler's 50% Rothschild. So one of the Rothschilds, I forget his name, was banging the maid, and Hitler was the son. Hitler was the illegitimate kid of that. So they're all connected, and they're all steeped in this knowledge of the mystery schools and dark magic and black magic and stuff. I mean, Hitler was huge on the Thule Society and the Frill Society and Madame Helena Blavatsky. And this all gets into, you know, strange things about spirituality and Satanism and Kabbalism, and, you know, gets back to Hermes, and it comes back to knowledge, but somehow it all ends up being satanic and very dark, and where rituals, you know, things that were sacrificed thousands of years ago to Baal are still being sacrificed today in these Masonic and these satanic rituals. They're still, you know, from what I can tell, it's real based on the people who've been fighting this for, you know, 20, 30 years.
There's
like
a lot after coming out, and there's even like barristers, like one of our mutual friends, Chris, had a guy on the podcast that was very interesting as well, you know, basically explaining all the torturing and everything. And if you look at, say, the likes of Bill Gates, because, you know, his family line and everything, him and Zuckerberg, they have no emotions. And it's exactly like what you had said, like they were abused, because you could say, how could anyone do what they're doing? And it's basically like that they don't have the emotions that anyone else. So you wonder, is there like a clever line that's actually doing this with all of them and they're at the side? Or is it that you just keep interbreeding and it just continues on? Because they know that.
Question. I think some families are generational where the children are subjected to trauma-based mind control, being raped, sodomized at a very young age. I'm talking 3 years old.
Yeah.
I'm talking 2 years old. People can't get this through their head, but this really happens.
Yeah.
Okay. Raped by their own parents, raped by friends. This is to break down them again in order to deal with the trauma, your mind splits. So we don't know. Maybe these families, you know, like maybe Bill Gates was subjected to that. You know, his father was on the board of Planned Parenthood. That was a eugenics venture. I mean, they were sterilizing black women. Always, you know, it always looks like it's good. That's part of the inversion, right? It's always going to be good for humanity, right? You know, the World Economic Forum at Davos is all about, sustainability is the new word. And that's a very dangerous word right now. People don't understand what that means. That's basically control, the sustainability, because it means that we can't live off the earth because we're so bad, because we're such bad humans. We're causing this whole thing called global warming. And now we have to leave the earth alone and go into smart cities and be, have a certain number of calories that aren't from the earth. And that's all the lie. That's part of the inversion. But in terms of getting back to, I don't understand Ted Turner. He was the head of CNN. You could see videos where he comes out and says he believes there should only be 10 million people on the planet. Where does that come from? Are they born into it was his family a Luciferian family, and it was part of their indoctrination? So he just grew up that this is normal. I don't know. It's sort of strange. It just seems like if anyone's about to have success, like, the guys who created Google, somehow they go in and they take it over. You wonder, the Russian guys who started Google, or Jeff Bezos. I mean, either Jeff Bezos wasn't compromised and he is now, because he definitely is now, or he's always been compromised. And all these people were basically destined somehow to do huge things because they had the support of the system to create this aspect of control that they were going to be the head of. They've been chosen somehow. I don't know how it works.
I reckon it's either, because if you look at all the artists and actors and everything, because obviously there's a lot of them that are, it's huge. People can't fathom what how many could be involved in this. But I think some of them that they're probably, there's no way that the whole lot are brought into it, like, inbred basically.
Yeah.
Like what I think has happened is they bring them to parties and they just get them compromised and they record it, and then they're their slaves and they say, listen, this is going out to the public, you're destroyed. And then they go, all right, yeah, money's no problem, I can do what I want, and you're their slave. That's the only way I can see why it's happening, because why else would people agree? Because if you look at so many people out there like Bono and a lot of people thinking these people are great, but when you look deep down what exactly they've done and what they're doing, like you mentioned Mother Teresa and everything, it's like, unfortunately, majority of the people don't realize what's going on. But like what I say is question everything. Don't believe, especially watching CNN and all this, you have to question the whole lot. Like?
Well, you have to, but we're indoctrinated not to question anything, to, just whatever you're told, that's it. That's why they talk to us in their indignant way. Like, they tell us they're going to count COVID deaths where COVID wasn't the cause of death, right? They just tell you on the news right to your face. And like, you take this, and whether you like it or not, we're doing this because we can do it. But in terms of, look, fame and money is a good motivation for people to say, well, look, if you do this, if you sell your soul to the devil, essentially, maybe those aren't the words they use, but you have a choice. You sign this contract and we tell you what to do, what to wear, what to say, and we'll make you famous. And if you don't, we give you nothing. Trust me. If you were starving and then you become easily mind controlled, because we are so impressionable. I mean, you hear kids repeat what they hear on the television and they don't even know what they're saying, right? We're basically biological computers. It's like input into our brain is a software, whatever we see, right? That's programming us as a computer. And then you get perception and behavior out, right? They know this. That's why you have to be very careful what you allow in your mind, what you watch on TV and stuff. That's why it's so easy to get an entire world against Trump, because they control the media, right? Going back to the Bilderberg thing was, the Rothschilds knew from an early time, because the Knights Templar were the biggest bankers, and then they went into hiding. And then I think the Rothschilds are basically the continuation of that whole banking dynasty of the Knights Templar. You control the money, you control the world, essentially. And then if you control the media, right? Think of the spoken word. Think before books. Okay, before people could read, right? We were basically just these people that were, roaming the land without any real thoughts and without anything. Then they know how manipulated people can be through controlling the media, and they control the media. Part of the agenda with the Bilderbergs was, and with the Fabian Society and Adam Weishaupt in 1776, with the help of the Rothschilds, was to control the media. And now 5 companies, if not 4, control basically.
4 now, yeah. It used to be 5. I think it's 4 now, yeah.
I think it's 4 now. They control every media, major media. And if you look on every media, they're using the same trigger words, right, on every channel. So no matter what channel you turn to, I can't watch TV because I can see, not like I'm above anyone, but as soon as I turn on Netflix, I'll see a kid who's gender confused, and I'm like, that's it. Like, just there's the agenda. Some poor young kid's going to see a kid who doesn't know whether he's a boy or a girl, right? And he's going to go, whoa, maybe I don't know if I'm a boy or a girl, right? I'm going to be just like that guy. Right?
The one thing, because I mean, we obviously know a lot of people, that don't watch television. I mean, I'd watch a movie, but I don't listen to ads or anything like that. So, like a comedy, I go on. But what I've noticed is with the people that are awake, most of them are the people without the televisions.
Yeah.
And the ones that are going to line up to get jabbed are the ones that are, they're sitting in front of the, watching the BBC.
Well, it's low vibration. There's a number of reasons. It's low vibration when you see all the violence and the programming, the darkness. Not only that, but then you see, a movie that has martial law, police coming into a city, and they're trying to normalize that. When you can see it, you're like, oh, I can't watch this, or you see all the symbolism of Baphomet and the triangles and stuff. And people don't realize that they control us through symbolism, because it affects our subconscious mind is triggered by symbols. I mean, our subconscious mind can see things at some crazy rapid rate that they actually know. And they have the TV set to a flicker rate puts you in an alpha state. So the TV is actually flickering. You can't really see it. You can sometimes, if you film your TV, you can see it flickering. Yeah. Like a computer, right? There's a flicker rate. And that flicker rate puts you into an alpha state, and when you're in an alpha state, it's like you're just about to fall asleep. It's when you're very suggestive, and that's where they're basically imprinting, Trump's a criminal or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. They control. And then if people aren't weary, they don't realize who they are. They're basically this completely robotic, programmed, regurgitating, thing that is manufactured.
Well, exactly. Yeah. And just and the 666 as well. Then, like, wait, they're like everything with the 666. Where did that come from? The
666 has to do with Kabbalism, and there's 6 senses. I forget exactly, but it has to do with geometry and math, and it actually represents man. Like the Leonardo da Vinci, he's has something to do with that circle and the man, and the math is something with 666. I don't understand it, but it's not essentially a bad thing. And we've been told it means Satan, but I don't know. I mean, I'm struggling with this whole bringer of light thing. These people are as dark as fuck, but to me, this whole Luciferian thing is Lucifer is the bringer of light. Light is knowledge, right? And they're worshiping knowledge, but they don't want the little people and the general public to have it. So, if you think of Lucifer as Satan and 666 is Satan, and it's all knowledge, which is the light, because through knowledge you become illuminated, because you now know who you are. You're not this limited sinner that needs to look externally for salvation. You're this incredibly amazing creator being that can manifest things that could actually teleport, and you could bilocate if you actually were that connected to your divinity while in the body. And they know this. That's why I didn't finish my thought earlier. The parents of Illuminati generational Luciferian satanic families, these are basically bloodlines that go back, but they're looking for their kids each kid has a certain talent. So they look for kids to be able to move objects, telekinesis, or this guy's going to be good in law. And you know what? You're broken down at an early age, and you have, you're morally bankrupt because you don't want to be hurt again, and you've been forced to do ridiculous things, and you've shut down that aspect of your mind, and now your mind is split, and you can't even remember it, but now you can be triggered, and this, that, and the other. But basically you uh where's it going with this? The oh fuck, I can't remember. So anyway, they look for, in their children, they look for talents, and part of the trauma is to ignite the kundalini, and that's actually done through raping. I hate to do it. I hate to say it. I'm talking like 3-year-olds, 5-year-olds, and then they can awaken these dormant powers in kids. This is how crazy they are. And then this kid could be a remote viewer for the military, right? Or this kid goes into law, and he's going to be the nastiest, dirtiest lawyer. He's going to try and put innocent people in prison who are a threat to telling the truth, right? This is how they control it, right? They break them down at an early age, and then they put them into positions of control. That's why the judges are compromised, right? Not only maybe there's a film of them having sex with a kid, but that's how part of the control works. There's also, again, the Knights Templar. If you go back, they were the military for the Pope, right? So not only were they wealthy, they were skilled, a skilled military, and that carries over now a lot. Look at the whole military buildup of the United States, right? Part of the whole thing with the fake wars is they need to keep this military thing to keep people in control, keep people in fear. There's always a boogeyman, but it helps to create innovation, right? And they make tons of money through it. They own all the companies that all the taxpayers are paying for the missiles and the night vision and whatever it is we don't need, but they say we need it. But so there's a thread of military, and these talented kids who have, I guess, supernatural abilities. They go into the military. They do things that we don't even know about. Like I said, remote viewing. There's all sorts of stuff that's going on that we're not aware of. And this is how they control. This is how they control the military, and this is how they control everything.
And like one of the things that I find, I know we've seen a list of the different things that Trump has done over the 4 years, but like I'd prefer people to kind of get the information out themselves, try to make change themselves, instead of thinking it's going to be he'd be the savior or whatever. And the reason that kind of fears me is, if I look back, you see him in pictures with the Clintons, right? We know well how bad they were. And you were talking about bad legal people. When he was building his empire and losing it and everything, I'd forget the name of the guy, but there was a guy that was one of the top legal people, and he looks so evil. Like, you just look at his, I don't know, have you ever seen that? But the guy looked as creepy as you can get. And he was one of the top, but Trump insisted that he was his lawyer, and he got a lot of stuff resolved through that. So like, I don't know, is it true? I just heard the other day that he's supposed to have pardoned Julian Assange. So if that's true, that'll be good for mankind, because he has exposed a lot of stuff, and that's what we need. We need more people out there, because like, I try to look at solutions all the time, and I was just thinking the other day that, like, we need, if we have one country, because like, say in Portugal recently, they ruled in the courts about the PCR test being fake, so that was good. But if you have one country that takes over the media, basically the good boys take over the media, and that's shared. Because unfortunately, and I see it in Poland, I see it in Ireland, I see it in the UK, I see it in America, we are bombarded with the information that is fake. And if we can get, like, there is online, but there's so much competition, there's so many different things, there's so many people trying to create alternatives to Facebook, alternatives to YouTube. The one that would work is if you've got the media taken over, like the Irish RTE or the BBC, and that's taken over, and they throw out the truth. Then people from other countries, because a lot of the time there's so many people, expats, they're sharing the information, and then more and more would see it. And I think that would be one of the ways that we can get more awake,
Yeah.
because
But the
knowledge is
problem
power.
is, as long as I think that would be great. I agree with that. But the media that's controlled will smear any outlet that's attempting to tell the truth. So, because that's how they work, right? They work on inversion, perversion, subversion of the truth. But that would be fantastic. I've thought about that too. I mean, wouldn't it be great if we had a news agency that had integrity,
Yeah,
right? That's sort of what you're saying,
exactly.
you
Yeah, because
know?
I mean, like with if you look at, there's probably some of them out there with online, but a lot of the time they just get taken down because they can hack them. They've got the top people around the world. They're pulling the strings for everything. Everything is infiltrated. But if you've got the right people behind, like the whatever country, the media
Yeah.
there, and just got the
Well,
message out.
yeah, that would be super. Right. But I think, it's really up to us. I
Yeah.
think the more people just trust their intuition when you're just starting to wake up, or you're not awake, but the world can't be this, or is the world organically this bad? And we just stop and think, right? I mean, that's another problem. If you live in the United States, you're not told that a million Iraqi civilians have been killed, right? It's probably more than that. So you don't have that awareness. I live outside the US, so I've had that opportunity. But the each person that says bullshit, you're lying, right? Each person that says you're a public servant, my taxes pay your salary. What gives you the right to be in this kind of position of authority to tell me what to do? No. No one's telling me what the fuck to do. I have inalienable rights. I'm a sovereign being, right? I'm eternal, and you're not having it. I do not consent, right? Giving up consent is a huge thing. And it can be done just in prayer. Like, it could just be like, I do not consent. I do not consent with this vaccine. I do not consent with what's going on with curfews, with masks, with COVID, with tracking, with, passports, with any of it. I do not consent. It may not mean it's going to stop anything, but if the entire world at the same point had the same recollection, they would lose control immediately,
Exactly.
because there
And
would be no
like
collective consent.
yeah, and like there's some people, maybe one eye is starting to open up, and all I say to you is, look at all the homelessness around the world that's orchestrated, right? Even now,
Yes.
I look here, the property taxes are still chugging away. Like, oh, people, you have to pay the rent on a building that you have to close because you can, of course. Does that make sense? So you're going to be personally liable for property taxes. And I assume that's going on in every country, right? So
Oh,
I see
yeah.
it in Poland. The other thing is all the starving people around the world. So they're saying they can create all these massive injections, all the money, billions going in, no problem. Do you know how much money it's cost to put the 5G towers and all the cameras around? Like, that's not billion, that's trillions. Like, that's no problem. So they
Yeah.
could end homelessness, they could end world hunger, and they're trying to tell you that they actually give a shit about your health and your life. So please wake up, because that in itself, just that statement should wake you up. If it doesn't,
Yeah.
put your head back in the sand and let them jab you away, because at this stage, and we need more. We need more people to come out. If you're a doctor and you're getting a bribe, look, you can change. Everyone has done something bad in their life. Don't keep your head down in shame. Come out, expose, expose, expose. Because the more people that expose, the more you'll wake up, the more you'll help, because you're actually going to be a slave of the future if you're going to be alive at all, because they're just kind of wiping out more and more constantly. So we need more people to actually get on
Yeah.
board.
I mean, totally. It's like, guys, this, even if you don't say, okay, this virus is okay, even if this virus is 100% real, the CDC has said it has a 99.8% survival rate. So think, why is there such a mad rush to lock down people and vaccinate everybody? I mean, just start to use your head, right? Just like that. I mean, just little things like that. And like you said, it makes a big difference. And I mean, don't we have to have respect for the sleeping, because we were once there and
No,
we're no
totally.
better.
Yeah, exactly.
And it is frustrating though. I mean, I really have limited my life because I can't go out and deal with masks and, you know, these scanning things where you're supposed to track into every fucking store, you know? I mean, okay, I have to get in the building. So if I can't sneak in, I'll track in. But there, you know, then I got to track into a store within the building. It's like, you already know I'm in the building, you know? I don't have the tracking thing, like, but I use a license. So, I mean, it's just like, you have to stop and think, guys, is this normal? Like, why do they need to know everywhere I am? Right? Like, this virus has a 99.8% survival rate, and the numbers are all inflated anyway, from the death count to the thing. So just start to use your intuition. This is about knowing who you are, and that you have power, and that you can. We don't need to be governed by people in suits and at the head of some organization that's an administration or an authority of science, an authority of the Department of Defense, an authority of this, and that guy in the suit who gets up and speaks is the authority, and what he says goes. Well, fuck off. I mean, that's how we have to start to think. Non-compliance is the answer.
No,
and
totally. And
knowing
a single politician, they can speak. That's the one thing, because that's why I set up the speaking podcast, because I said, you need to speak, get your message out. These guys can speak, but they have zero, they don't have a heart. They don't care. Like, they constantly vote on things that's hurting the individual. So
they've sold out.
Shunned. Yeah, they've sold out. Yeah. So they need to be shunned and kicked out. You cannot, like, there's so many people that kind of lick up to them and try to, surround them. So, like, you need to shun these people. You need to be outside their house banging pots.
They're public servants. We pay their salaries. They're there to serve us, not to rule over us. That distinction alone is huge. When a policeman takes the oath, he takes the oath to uphold the Constitution. The Constitution. He does not take an oath to uphold statutory law, which is the law that enslaves us. Okay? The Constitution protects our inalienable rights as a living man, our sovereignty, our freedom. So if you know how to speak to a police officer, you know he's working for you. You pay his salary. So you don't give your name. You don't give consent. You're not entering a contract. And you ask him, are you on oath? Because he knows he took an oath to protect the Constitution. And then you get his badge number, because you can sue him personally, civilly, for not protecting the Constitution and fucking you up.
Yeah.
And once they know that, all these public servants, all these police, if you know what you're doing, you can sue them civilly. I'm not saying we want to do that. It costs money. You need to know what you're doing. But we have the right to sue them civilly, as long as we do not say our name and enter into a contract on the spot. It's very difficult. It's a whole nother topic.
No, exactly. I'm studying that at the moment, and there's people doing it around the world. I know that it's happening in America and everything. They're approaching the police stations and everything, but some further research and maybe the topic down the line. But
yeah, it's not clear cut, and you better know what you're doing. But in general, for small things, if you're pulled over by a policeman and you've done nothing wrong, you do not have to fucking give him your license. You do not have to say who you are. And you can, if he has no jurisdiction, he has to leave. If he doesn't get your name, he doesn't get consent from you, and he doesn't get that you understand, he cannot do anything if you haven't committed a crime, a statutory crime. That's
like the reason I want to delve into that, and like we better.
Well, we can. I don't know how long.
No. I think we'll do a separate one. But what I've seen is there's different people that are giving information about that, and that's why I'm a bit cautious of it. And there's people telling you what you should say and everything. And sometimes it works. I've seen people talk to police officers, they record it and everything. And I've seen other people try it and they're getting horsed out of the police and getting thrown to the ground and everything. So you have to be extremely careful. So at the end of the day, I think protect yourself, but it's one that we're looking at. And I think there's definitely, especially in what's going on in the world today, like we're living in crazy times. And if there's loopholes, that is one for sure. We're like, there's a few people that are watching that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you got to know what you're doing, and I don't really recommend anyone do it. But if you're trying to keep your business open, you really have nothing to lose if this is going to put food on the table. But what this really is, this is about taking control back. Yeah. This is, This is really what we're talking about. People, wake up, take fucking control back. Don't look to a president. The presidents have no power anyway. They're empty suits, right? They just bullshit you, and they're serving corporations and people that give them money. And so why look to a doctor to save your life? Why look to a president to make you feel better? Wake up to who you are, take your power back and decide, and point the finger at yourself and call bullshit on it. I do not consent to COVID. I do not consent to vaccines. I do not consent to curfews. I do not consent to all this. Make a declaration just to yourself. And that's huge. It changes your vibration because now you're taking control. It's like exhaling and you're not in fear anymore. They need us in fear to feed off of us and to control us and to keep us polarized and divided.
Just a final one, because it's just something that I thought of again this week.
Yeah.
Like, have you come across the frequency for 432?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So what I was thinking is, because I'm constantly looking at solutions. We know that the whole planet, the satellites and everything have the 5G. Is it not possible that if we were able to tap in, get the Julian Assange and give that frequency out everywhere, could it make change?
Yeah. I mean, if you want, you can download an app, 432. Like everything you listen to on your phone will be changed to 432 from 440. But in terms of, we don't know exactly. There's 5G can be transmitted at different frequencies. I don't think it's all 60 gigahertz. And the verdict isn't out because, there's apparently 5G in my house and my breathing's fine. The new routers come with either 2.4 gig or 5 gig, right? And I can't stop it. It's like, there's fluoride in the water. Occasionally I'll eat a bag of chips and it's GMO. That's where like you have to start to say, do they really just want to start dropping millions and millions of people, killing them? I don't think so. I think they do want a lot less people on the planet, because if you look at that whole population chart on Deagle, it is concerning. And, you have the Georgia Guidestones, and these people are freaks. So, they want a third world war and stuff like that. But in terms of 432, sure. Now you can listen to it on YouTube and binaural beats and stuff like that. But I think it all comes down to me, the solution is looking within, so that you say, are things really this crazy that we have curfews because of a virus that has a 99.8 survival rate? Or there's this mad rush for vaccines for this thing that has a 99.8 survival rate? And as soon as you do that, they don't really have you, and you're raising your vibration. So instead of getting 432, create your own 432. And because there's a whole theory that if you think of the earth like a ball, like a rubber ball, and you put a rubber ball in a bowl of water, it floats, right? So think of the hand that we've been talking about that's inverting everything and creating fake wars and rituals and blood sacrifices and fear and polarization and divide and conquer. It's nonstop. We're limited in every way from the time we're born, right? And we're put in this sense of fear or survival mode. We got to pay the bills, electric bill. You got to get good grades. You got to go to a good school. It's fear everywhere. Just don't do that. Don't do this. You're a limited sinner. You're not this magnificent interdimensional eternal being, which is what we are, right? We're consciousness having a physical experience. So, basically, there's a theory that the earth, like the rubber ball, is being held underwater by this hand, and the frequency needs to be kept low to keep the frequency of earth low, so that they have more control, so that we're in fear and that we're divided and we're controlled, because these are low frequency beings, okay, that are doing this. And they can only be let's just say they can only be in a plane of existence that is a certain low frequency, okay? So Earth has to be a very low, dark consumption, everything consumes each other, war, fear, problems, hurricane, tragedy, right? They need to keep this earth in that low frequency for their own existence.
Yeah.
Because if earth starts to raise, if people start to raise their vibration, they're not only are they losing control, but they can't even be here. Or it's however it looks spiritually, I don't know. But so they've been holding earth underwater in a low frequency with all this fear, and it wants to pop up, because if you take the hand off, it pops up. And that popping up is the awakening. That's everyone raising their frequency and not being in fear and being in possibility and being in a place of faith, and that I have nothing to fear. Everything's going to be okay. And I can create whatever I want. I can manifest technically whatever I want, but it's also about servicing others, service to others, having compassion, having gratitude, seeing everyone as one, not just me, right? That's all part. They have us in a me mode, which keeps the ball underwater as well. A lot of this is having humility, having empathy, right? That's going to help raise the vibration, right? And they don't want that. They don't want people to have, they want us to be so concerned with getting the new Prada bag that we don't care that 1 million civilians are killed in Iraq, right? That's what they want. Oh, 1 million civilians, we killed 1 million civilians. That means like people like you, their condos were bombed and destroyed, and we killed them. Oh yeah, that's fine. I'm getting this new Prada bag. It's just amazing, right? And it's on sale. It's $500 off, right? I mean, that's our programming, consumption. Don't care about anyone. It's just about me. And that's
the
part of keeping the
refugees
ball.
that are created through all these wars, they then hate the people that have to move because of the atrocities in their countries.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, there's refugees everywhere, but that's part of the plan. They love the pain. They love the suffering, right? It's a very low vibration, right? It keeps the earth down. It keeps everyone divided. It keeps people tired. It keeps people from caring. And they don't want us to care for each other. They don't want us to support each other.
There's people
right?
that were born into refugees camps and they're 16, 17. They're all their life in a refugee camp. Are you saying that cannot be changed? Like, that is orchestrated, and it is orchestrated.
The average American doesn't know that all these wars that are engineered and fabricated and fake and funded by us, or whether enemies created and funded by American tax dollars, 10,000 miles away from America, the average American does not know there are refugee camps with millions of people, right? They don't know. I went to Paris, and all over Paris, there's Syrians with families, right? Could you imagine your home's destroyed and you have to take your 3 kids and live on the street of Paris because you don't have any other place, and I'm bringing food and water to all these people, right? That's not the point. The point is people don't even have the awareness of what's going on. Mm-hmm. That our wars are quote unquote, spread of democracy, which is not what it is at all. It's a spread of communism and totalitarianism is what it is, disguised as democracy, is causing all this suffering. But this is part of their plan. And also the fact that people aren't aware of it is part of the plans, but people need to freaking wake up and start being more concerned with them, not, other people and what's going on in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, Steve, as always, it's been fantastic. Listen, people like, because episode 33, because I've got some great comments back. People love our conversation. So basically the other ones that we done were episode number 33 and episode number 20. You've got your own podcast. You might let people know about that as well so that they can listen in on you.
Yeah, my podcast is Awakened Mind Podcast on Spotify, Apple, and the other ones. I have a YouTube channel that I just started with Awakened Mind. I'm working on my BitChute. Roy is my my mentor. So I'm a really bad student. I think I'm failing right now, maybe D-.
No, you're good. It's all about getting the message.
I'm getting up to speed. I'm not really that good with being out there on video, like just, everywhere, but I'm starting to get to the point where I don't care. It's not because of like how I look or anything. It's like, I just like, it's the whole thing's a bit weird for me. I like the whole, so I'm getting there. So Awaken Mind Podcast, and look forward to hearing more.
Yeah,
And look, we got to talk. We have a lot of topics we can talk
no,
about. No,
definitely. Yeah, no, we have to do a lot more. And I'll put your podcast in the description below so that, as well as the other links for the other shows.
We haven't done.
Listen, thanks a million, Steve. So that's all for the Awakening Podcast. You can find other episodes on awakeningpodcast.org. We're on BitChute, we're on YouTube, and you really need to share this, because the more people that wake up, the more chance we have of everything changing. So until next week, take care.
Thank you.